Golden Black Radio is brought to you by Academy Sports and Outdoors. At Academy Sports and Outdoors, we carry all the gear you need from the top brands, all at prices you'll love. And now shopping at the Academy is more convenient than ever. We offer free assembly on in-store purchases of most bikes and grills, plus free and easy curbside pickup on academy.com orders. Want to save even more every day? Open and use an Academy Sports and Outdoors credit card to get 5% off future purchases when you're approved. Save time and money at Academy Sports and Outdoors and have fun out there.
Okay, here we go. Golden Black Live Saturday simulcast. Nate Barrett in with Alan Karpick. We'll have Brian Newbert and Alan in just a moment. And then Dub Jalison will join us and Tom Deanhart as well to take a look at breaking this one down as the Boilermakers fall in South Bend 56-30. The final. We'll take your comments throughout the show. A reminder, the Union Club Hotel at Purdue, an autograph collection retreat, blends student-run hospitality with resort luxury. Enjoy the spa, Boiler House Prime Dining, and Burke Boilermaker Golf. Perfect for wellness and Purdue fans as well as leisure seekers. Our property offers serene escapes. Book your escape today, and we're glad to be joined by Alan Karpick. And Alan, the background is there for you. Somehow, I think our Academy spot with Derek Schultz didn't fire for some reason. So,
no, it fired.
Okay, well, on my end, I couldn't see it.
It was your apprenticeship is going very well here, my friend. As if I want to tell Nate Barrett how to do an apprenticeship.
Anyway. Hey, we're all learning new technology, but I'm glad I couldn't see it. So I'm glad that Derek.
You're all good. It ran.
I'm glad it fired. And the Boilers, Alan, tonight. I know we'll bring Brian in a second, but interesting. We all look at the line throughout the week, and it ends up at 56-30. But Purdue with that late touchdown, but just too much Notre Dame on the ground with Love and Price, and they were every bit as tough as they were last year.
Yeah, did they cover? I don't know what the line was. Was it 26.5 at the end? I'm not sure.
I heard around 26.
Yeah, and of course, isn't it amazing how Vegas knows how to get it? But, I thought it was an interesting game in a lot of ways. I mean, obviously, some of the things that we've been used to with Purdue, and that is its ability to tackle well, avoid stupid penalties. They hurt themselves today, and that was different. And you can't do that against Notre Dame. Special teams was not Purdue's friend, with the exception of excellent field goal kicking. All those things, the defense has got some things to work on, clearly. And yet Notre Dame was really good in the run game, and they're a very good football team. We already know that. But I thought in some ways I was still intrigued by the way the offense and fired it back, and really the way that the team, for the most part, especially into the first half, still responded in many situations. Not all of them, but some. And I know we're looking at moral victories. This may not go into that category, but it wasn't a total loss either. I thought Purdue did do some good things tonight.
I thought Jason Garrett on NBC and Peacock had some nice comments about what to expect from Barry Odom as he builds this program back up, some of the tenacity. And I think Garrett just really saying, you know what, give this guy some time and Purdue will become a dangerous program again.
Yeah, they were very complimentary to him, and certainly Barry's still trying to get an explanation of why they picked up that flag, I think, but and he talked about that on a post-game radio. But no, I think that's true, and I think Purdue still has to do the things to incrementally get better. I'm sure Brian's going to have some maybe a little different insight, but a more in-depth insight, I should say. And yet I really do believe that no, it wasn't a great step forward, but it wasn't, in my view, a huge step back. Purdue's got to figure out a way to stop the run. They've got to force a punt. I don't know of any team that I can remember, even last year, that didn't force a punt for 3 games, and Purdue hasn't forced a punt since the Ball State game. So that's a thing that you have to come to terms with if you're Purdue.
Let's bring Brian Newbert in. He's in the Fortress of Solitude. And Brian, Alan just talking about some of the Boilermaker reflections on this one. Your initial take, Brian, on Purdue tonight, what you saw.
Yeah, I heard you use the term leisure seeker before, and I guess this is where I come to seek leisure.
You bet.
No, I think it kind of had a lot in common with last week with USC, where one team on the field is far superior physically. from the other one. Purdue had to play a really clean game, to have a chance. It had to be really, really buoyant to hang in there. And I think to the latter point, they were there for a while, but they just weren't good enough to stop the run. They weren't good enough defensively. Notre Dame is very good. They're way more physical than Purdue. They were loading up the line of scrimmage in order to run the ball, and they were able to throw out of that. So Purdue, 3-man fronts, 4-man fronts, whatever it was, couldn't get to the quarterback, just couldn't take Notre Dame out of its comfort zone whatsoever. But Purdue was not an innocent party in all of this. As Alan, I think, alluded to, you can't drop a touchdown. You can't drop 2 passes, one on third down, one a touchdown. You can't miss as many tackles as they did. Now, Notre Dame has a lot to do with the missed tackles. They are more physical. They have great running backs, but you can't do that stuff. You can't give up a touchdown on a kickoff return, albeit it's inexplicable how you can pick up a flag there after you initially saw something that merited you throwing the flag. At the end of the day, that did not decide the game. I think it was part of what triggered the landslide that ultimately ended up with Notre Dame scoring 56 points or whatever the final number was. But for the first half, just like USC, you kind of saw Purdue respond, to situations where this could have been a 56-30 game from the outset, whereas it was more of a close loss in the first half. It was a blowout. And I think last year, again, it's just our reference point. It has no relevance to this year and this team. But sometimes in situations like that, you see teams quit or just blow up. And I thought last year Purdue quit, ended up giving up 66 points. I didn't think that Purdue quit this year. I thought when Notre Dame hit that 66-yard touchdown on the first offensive snap of the game, I thought Purdue responded. I think after the weather delay, after they hit the kickoff return, again, Purdue responded. They just didn't have more than 30 good minutes in them.
Yeah, I think one of the things, and you're upon further review, is if you don't have anything to do tomorrow afternoon, read what Brian has to write. It's excellent.
That's the standard, huh? If you have nothing else to do.
No, well, yeah. That may be
see how it is.
Okay, if you want to have a constructed afternoon, but I wanted to get your view on setting the edge, and I don't know whether that was just some of what Jeremiah Love did around the corner, and certainly Jadarian Price, I think, had 9 touches, 3 touchdowns. Purdue could not. What did you see just at first blush? Because it reminded me a little bit of last year, just in that inability to stop Notre Dame. All of a sudden was going around the end, and then they were in the end zone. What did you see there?
Yeah, I'd have to go back and watch them.
Oh, don't give us that. You can't give us. I have to go back and look at the film.
All the big runs kind of ran together.
Yeah.
Were they all going outside the tackle, or were they cutting up inside the tackle?
Well, I think they were going out. They were like popping out. They were going off tackle and then popping around the edge, and then they were.
Yeah. What I thought just in general was that Notre Dame came out in really jumbo sets.
Yeah.
Had a lot of 2 tight ends. They obviously have a big offensive lineman that they were loading up their front to run the ball. And so naturally you've got this fortress kind of around the quarterback. So when you can't stop the run, the offense can do whatever it wants. And you naturally had optimal run blocking personnel out there, and by extension you also had optimal pass protection personnel out there. And I just think Notre Dame was too big and physical for Purdue to handle from a defensive perspective. I know Purdue played a lot of fronts. The 3-man front doesn't get you a lot of pass rush, but you got to make them pass in order to rush the passer. And it all starts with stopping the run. And I don't think either was effective. I think Purdue went to more 4-man fronts in the second half, and things got worse. So I think it was a damned if you do, damned if you don't kind of thing. But if you just tackle better, if you just don't miss guys in the hole, if you just don't let guys run through contact. I know it's easier said than done. Notre Dame is Notre Dame for a reason. Jeremiah Love is an outstanding running back. The other kid whose name I already forgot,
Jadarian Price,
who scored all the touchdowns, is a very good player. Those offensive linemen are not, are not Division I AA guys. They are
no,
they are dudes, and it makes the quarterback's job pretty easy. And when you have ultimate balance the way Notre Dame did, in large part because they played that jumbo personnel basically the whole game, it really puts the defense on skates. And I just think it was too much for Purdue. And no matter what Purdue did, whether it was run blitzing, you got to guess right. That's so often that's what it comes down to, is if you don't have the personnel and you have to throw extra bodies at it, you have to guess right. And if you don't, you're screwed. Because if they hit you right where it hurts, big plays happen. And I think that was part of it too. But I think the most important part of this was just that Notre Dame was way more physical than Purdue, and had ultimate balance because they couldn't stop the run in the first place. So you had to account for the pass when the pass wasn't always coming. It was you had to really had to have your head on a swivel about the run. It was kind of like what Wisconsin did for years against Purdue, where you just couldn't even compete against the run. So you're so overextended in that area of the game that in the passing game, they can kind of do whatever they want.
Yeah. Brian, I wanted to ask you about a couple of things that jumped out to me from your Gold and Black predictions article. One was Purdue using experiences like this to get better. Do you think it did that tonight? And then also Ryan Brown's play. You talked about that he would be a real key. He goes 21 of 34, 250 yards, a touchdown, and an interception. But maybe just touch on those things, how they can use it to get into Big Ten play in October and have it make them better than your assessment of Ryan's play.
Yeah, I think that part of getting better is being healthy. And I think I've seen reports here already. TJ Lindsey's out for the year. That didn't happen today. That happened last week. George Byrne left the game, was in street clothes after the rain delay. That's not good. But no, Purdue has to get more cohesive, more comfortable in what they're doing. Again, this is a team with zero continuity. A lot of college football teams are that way right now, but Purdue more than just about anybody else, with all the new players they've had in new systems. A lot of them only got to campus in August or June at the earliest, and it's just kind of a tough spot to be in. And to get thrown into games like this early in the season is really, really tough. So every game should bring a little bit more comfort, a little bit more cohesion, a little bit Purdue being a little bit better in what they do. That's just how it's supposed to work. Whether it ends up working that way or not, I don't know. But they got to be healthy. I don't think there's ever a scenario where a Purdue team's going to have so many good players that they can afford to lose important guys to injury. Ryan Brown's play, I think, as he gets more and more experienced, I think the decision making, the read and react stuff that come with the quarterback position, I think naturally get better. I think, this is essentially a freshman. He was at Purdue last year. Yes. Totally different circumstances, totally different context, totally different teammates, totally different system. All that stuff doesn't matter. He wasn't here in the spring. He got here basically in time for training camp. He was here in the summer, but in terms of practices and real learning opportunities, he's been with these coaches, he's been with these teammates basically since August. So how that's different from a freshman outside of the physical part of it, I don't really know. And, from a quarterback perspective, you're the most important decision maker in the game. When you run RPO stuff, when you run read option stuff, that takes it to a whole other level. I thought that the interception he threw was kind of a fluke in terms of the way it bounced, but also they dropped into zone when Purdue was clearly expecting man. And that's something a more seasoned quarterback probably notices a little sooner and checks out of, or doesn't throw the ball or something like that. So it's going to take some time with him. I think people need to understand that with Ryan Brown. He's got some physical tools, the experience and the know-how have to catch up. But with all that said, he's doing a lot of really positive things. He's doing a better job, I think, as a drop back, hang in the pocket passer than I thought he did, because I think he's done more already in that area than he showed last season in the few opportunities he had to actually be a drop back passer. It wasn't his strength last year. I still wouldn't call it his strength now, but he's much better now than what we saw last year. When he came back to Purdue, I didn't know if he was the sort of guy who could make the kind of throws Purdue would need its quarterback to make to win at a high level in the Big Ten. He's making those throws. He puts the ball behind receivers a little bit sometimes instead of out in front of them. But I'm holding him to like a Drew Brees standard by pointing that stuff out. He's not going to be Drew Brees, nor should I even invoke that name in reference to Ryan Brown. But I think he's doing way more positive than he's struggling. He's given Purdue a chance. I mean, where would Purdue have been in these games without Ryan Brown? Obviously, the 3 interceptions last week were problematic. But he's the reason today you had a chance, really, for 30 minutes of game time. He played well in those first 2 games, I thought. And I'm not sure Purdue would have lost either of those games with somebody else playing, but I thought he's done way more positive this year than not, and should only get better from here.
All right, last question for you, Brian. On the Illinois getting boat raced early at Indiana, down 28-7, and I know you're doing this and not watching that, but we're all trying to figure out just how many games Purdue can win, and the answer still just may be that they can win. They could win several more, and they may not win any. I mean, that's kind of where we are with all this. But your take of a day of watching a little bit of college football and seeing what was going on. I know you had other things going on today, but Illinois getting, like I said, Indiana's big lead on Illinois, Michigan beating Nebraska on the road. All that ties into I don't know what that means for the Big Ten, but Indiana looks pretty good.
Yeah, I don't see why, if you tackle better,
yeah,
if you don't drop touchdowns, if you don't drop third down conversions, if you don't commit 4 penalties on the offensive line in the first 5 minutes of the game, whatever exactly that was, Purdue's shown enough positive here where if they clean up that stuff, they don't beat themselves. I don't see why you don't beat Northwestern, why you can't beat Minnesota, why you can't beat Rutgers. Who knows where Indiana will be at the end of the year? Who knows where Illinois will be if they go on to lose this game going on right now. You've got a lot of those teams at home. I think what Indiana is benefiting from against Illinois right now is what Purdue would have had in Ross-Ade Stadium last week had the weather delay not literally watered it down. So I think that environment can help them in a game or two this year. I don't see why Purdue doesn't have a couple of wins here the rest of the way out in front of it, provided it gets better, provided what we talked about before in terms of experience and added cohesion and experience and the natural organic improvement that should come at quarterback among other areas of this football team. I don't see why Purdue can't, go get a handful of games here the rest of the way. I think Notre Dame and USC, those were big asks, probably too big in hindsight, absolutely too big in hindsight. But there are only so many USC's and Notre Dame's left. Assume you lose all those games, there are still a bunch of games here where Purdue should have a much more stacked or a much more even playing field working in its favor. So I wouldn't write Purdue off by any means based on 2 losses to teams they were overmatched by.
Brian, good stuff as always. We'll let you get back to your Godfather marathon. I know you like to watch that on Saturday nights when there's not a good football game on.
Is it on somewhere?
Yeah, it's got to be.
It's always on somewhere.
Probably.
Have a great night, Brian.
All right, you guys too. Thanks.
All right, thanks, Brian.
And we'll bring in Dub Jalison, Alan. And Dub, in your goldenblack.com prediction, you had a little bit in there about a guy named Jeremiah Love. I don't know if he disappointed you tonight, but from the standpoint of running with a lot of grace and confidence, he was awfully tough for Purdue to defend. So just start there. He was everything that he was advertised to be, and that was a real challenge for the Purdue defense.
Man, is he good? Is he good? Best running back in the country for my money. But yeah, man, I mean, it looked like a man amongst boys out there with him and Jadarian Price out there running around, running wild. And that I thought that was a big key coming into the game was, whether Purdue could stop that ground game and force CJ Carr to beat them. I think CJ Carr could have beaten them had they stopped the ground game anyway. But I think that, Love and Price are just so hard to tackle. I think that's kind of the root cause of a lot of the missed tackles we saw tonight. And then, the Notre Dame offensive line just simply dominated. It looked like two different levels of football out there in the trenches, in my opinion, on both sides of the ball. But as far as the Purdue defense, I just thought that they got dominated up front, and that just kind of led to the floodgates opening.
Yeah, you look at an interesting first half. I thought one thing that made the game intriguing was Purdue's desire to, throw everything at Notre Dame. I mean, obviously the first touchdown, the fake punt. What'd you think of that? And not to give trade secrets away, but is this a standard part of practice as you watch them, and maybe you don't even get a chance to see that kind of stuff? I don't know, but it really was I thought it was a good thing that Purdue kept themselves in the game. I understand it blew out. We get all that, but some of the things they did, I thought gave Purdue a chance to compete early.
Yeah, and I think you have to have those plays when you're outmatched from a talent perspective. You look at Jeff Brom and Purdue against, I think, of Michigan State. They had the play where Jackson Anthrop ends up scoring on a trick play, and I think Jeff Brom utilized those a lot going back to his era in West Lafayette. But yeah, I think you gotta throw everything in the kitchen sink at a team like Notre Dame. I think we saw that a little bit last week too with the double pass. That ended up working out for Purdue, but I think Josh Henson's got some tricks up his sleeve, and we finally got to see one of the patented James Shebus fakes that I think a lot of us have been really waiting on, and they finally broke one of those out. So that was cool to see. I think you have to do those to try to punch Notre Dame in the mouth early in a game like that, and I think it helped keep Purdue in the game. Only being down 12 in the first or at halftime, despite your defense just getting run over the entire time, it's pretty impressive. So if Purdue can do that in some of these upcoming games like Illinois and later on in the year Michigan and Ohio State and possibly Indiana, I think that that could bode well for them.
I'll pop this one up here, Dub, from Steven. He says, great fight. You can tell this team has heart and is well coached. Just too big of a talent gap between these two teams. Of course, you cover recruiting for Gold and Black, but just talk about there were some plays where I thought the speed was obvious. As the Purdue defense was chasing them around, you thought, boy, there's just a real speed difference there. And that's part of what Coach Odom and the staff are trying to close as they're out on the recruiting trail.
Yeah, absolutely. It's no secret that Notre Dame is as established as they are. Just in the recruiting world, they're going to have better players pound for pound. I thought a lot of their runs, especially the ones where they got out and made big plays, 20, 30, 40-yard gains in the run game. I thought some of the defensive backs were taking really poor angles. So I think that led to some of the explosive plays in the run game. And then, you look at some of the passing touchdowns that Notre Dame scored. I think Tony Grimes got burnt on the first play of the game.
Yeah.
A couple other defensive backs got burnt. Trey Wright got burnt and got lucky that I can't remember if it was CJ Carr or Kenny Minchie off the top of my head. That was in the game. I want to say it was Minchie, but just got underthrew him, or that would have been another touchdown. So, I think the talent gap is going to be there right now for Purdue. I think next year it'll be interesting to see what transfer portal guys think of Barry Odom and Purdue in that respect, and see if they can get some impact players in there that can compete right away and start right away and contribute right away. So I think that's the biggest thing. And the high school recruiting game, it's a lot of banking on potential. So
Sure.
if you get guys that are speed demons or can jump off the field or kill it in the weight room, then you can build on that. So I think Purdue's got some guys coming in next year's class that kind of fit that mold and in our athletic freaks. And so we'll see if they can get the coaching and kind of emerge as some impact players for them.
Yeah, well, I think one of the things too that was very evident today, it was disappointing, I think, from a Purdue perspective, is that the four, I don't know if they're all false starts, but 4 offensive line penalties early. And the offensive line is really, obviously, you've played 2 good fronts in the last week, though not great fronts. I don't think you can call either, at least at this point, Notre Dame and USC quite to that level. But this is a problem that we knew could be there, and yet it is a situation where I think Purdue, is struggling the offensive line and certainly struggling at times to not only protect Ryan Brown, but Devin Maccabee, runs for 16 yards and 12 carries. He ran hard. Wasn't that he just didn't have any place to go. His biggest gain was 6. When your punter, I think, had your one of your biggest gains from scrimmage, that's a problem.
Yeah, that's after last week, I was like, if you took away the sacks, I thought Purdue ran the ball decent, maybe slightly below average. And then tonight, seeing Devin Maccabee try to find any holes, when he was running was disconcerting. He just had nowhere to go. I think he had really one run that was past like 8 yards, maybe. I think he had a 10-yard run.
I don't know. Officially, I thought it's 6, but may not have seen the final stats. But yes, we didn't.
No, 6.
Didn't
Yes,
give much,
I'm looking at the stats right now. But yeah, that's very concerning. And that Purdue's behind the 8 ball when they play a front like Notre Dame. And I think Notre Dame, a lot of people got some false hope just seeing that they were 0-2 and they're kind of reeling a little bit. People forget that you lose by 4 total points at Miami and 2 Texas A&M, or at home against Texas A&M in an overtime game. So it wasn't like Notre Dame lost to Northern Illinois and Toledo. That's not the type of team they are. So you knew Marcus Freeman was going to have those guys ready. It was kind of a get well game for the Fighting Irish, and they went out and proved why they were just better than Purdue.
I did like the stat that or the graphic about the teams that are 0-2 in rank. Purdue was in that. I didn't know that. 1948. Bob DeMoss, the quarterback. But yeah, that is a. I think I thought Marcus Freeman, who a person we got to know a little bit when he was here under Darrell Hazel, just a great guy and a winner, and he's gonna and will continue to be successful in my view up there. But I liked him at halftime. I don't know if you guys were watching it. Nate was selling cars at that point, but the whole notion, I thought his analysis was really good about how disappointed he was and his defense wasn't connected, and Purdue had something to do with that. I mean, Ryan Brown had something to do with that, certainly. But I thought that was an interesting analysis by Marcus, and he's an impressive guy, as is Barry Odom. I thought Barry Odom handled himself well, and he looks like he's been there, and that's an important thing, I think, as you move forward if you're Purdue.
Dub, I'd like to ask you about Nitro Tuggle, because I think you see what we see in him. 6 targets tonight. He catches 3 for 66 yards, a touchdown, a long of 31. His first catch was for 31 yards, and then he gets that 24-yard touchdown catch from Ryan Brown. He seems like we have not even close to seen yet what he might become for this football team. Kind of dazzling, could be sensational.
He's the one guy that I look at, just seeing him move and seeing some of the things that he can do on the field. And I'm like, that's an NFL talent right there. Purdue doesn't have too many of those guys, maybe a handful. And I think he's right up at the top of the list. Obviously still young, still making improvements on some of the little things, but I think we're finally starting to see the talent level of Nitro Tuggle. In the second half, I think just the Purdue offense wasn't clicking as a whole. But in that first half, he really played well. Really showed how he can create separation downfield, which I think is a big thing for this Purdue offense. They need him. They need Armand Branch, who we didn't see a ton of tonight. They need Michael Jackson to be able to create separation and create big plays. Because as of right now, really Nitro Tuggle's the only one that's done it since the Ball State game when Armand Branch had a stellar performance. So I think he's just scratching the surface, and he's going to continue to get better and better and better. It's going to be interesting to see where he is at the end of this year or at the end of his Purdue career.
Yeah. Tom Deanhart will be joining us here in a little bit. And obviously we're going to talk about and see if I doubt we'll have a lot of news from the post-game press conference, because Barry Odom and injury discussion are mutually exclusive. But George Burhen's injury, some rumors about broken wrist on down the line. What is true, we don't know. Or at least I don't know. But that's a huge injury, because he is your tight end that can get away from people and can cause some problems. Not that his understudies might be capable blockers. They just don't seem to be quite the same in terms of the ability to really catch that football and help you move it to north and south.
Yeah, you saw Rico Walker get in the game really for the first time since Ball State.
Right.
And he was a guy who I thought progressed well throughout fall camp. He started making plays as camp progressed, and I think that's why he earned the start in the season opener. We didn't really get an explanation from Josh Henson as to why he wasn't in the rotation the last couple of weeks. He just said that Walker's got to make some improvements, and evidently he did, because he got a couple snaps before Burhen went down, so he looked to be getting back into the rotation. But you saw him drop the touchdown pass, which I feel like I want to give him the benefit of the doubt. He got hit pretty hard. I don't know if he could have got his feet down even if he had caught it. But nonetheless, you would have given yourself a chance to get a foot down. So, you see him, and he'd be the 1A guy if Burhen was to miss extended time. And then when it comes to Christian Moore and Christian Earls, those are pretty much fullbacks. Christian Moore is a fullback. I like to think of Christian Earls as another tackle, just because of his sheer size. But Purdue, if Burhen is to miss any time, Purdue's got a lot of question marks with that tight end room, and it's going to make life harder for Ryan Brown.
Yeah, no question.
Dub, when you reflect on Purdue now at 2-2, and you and Tom talked about it on your preview shows getting ready for the season, is this about where you thought they would be in all reality?
A little better than I thought they would be. And a lot of that was just the fashion in which they lost last week. Remain competitive pretty much through 4 quarters. You take away those 3 interceptions, I think Purdue has a good shot of being right there at the end. And today, the defense just got decimated. There's no shying away from that. That's something that I'm interested to hear what Mike Shear has to say about on Monday. Actually, we won't talk to him on Monday, so it'll be the following Monday, because next week's a bye week. But I'll be interested to hear what Coach Shear has to say about just where they are defensively, because I think Notre Dame exploited some holes with respect to the defense, but that they stayed in the fight for 30 minutes or 3.5 hours, however you want to look at it, with the back-to-back weather delays. Alan might know this, if there's ever been back-to-back weather delays.
Nope. That's the first time that I can think of.
I
never had 2 in a year, to my knowledge. I'm pretty sure, because they never had weather delays prior to 1989 that I could ever think of. But I thought that was interesting on Chris Sims talking about how, let's just play through lightning, and he was kind of half kidding, but
Isn't there something, Alan, on the back of your ticket in the old days that said, like the Indy 500, you kind of enter at your own risk?
Yeah, I'm sure that was the case, but I don't know. In fact, it's always good when you know that your siblings are watching the show. Nancy Nell saying, did the weather delay help ND? I don't know. The way that the way that half ended, I don't know if it had any effect at all. Do you have any, either you or Nate have any view on that from your perspective?
I kind of think that it just halted Purdue's momentum.
Yeah.
They've just gotten a big turnover, kind of like poised to score. I believe they scored on their previous possession, so that could have cut into the deficit even further.
When they did make a field goal, right? Yeah, at that point.
Yes.
Right, yeah.
But you settle for 3 field goals in the first half.
Yeah, that's a killer. When in a track meet, you can't do that.
Yeah, absolutely. So Purdue's and that was the issue last week against USC. I know it was turnovers as opposed to settling for field goals, but you got to find a way to cap off drives, which they did. Obviously, you put up 30 points, but that's something we also saw a lot last year. I thought at times Purdue would move the ball well, and they would get into the red zone, and they looked like they had never played football again. I think this is an entirely different team, obviously, and they've shown made strides in that area. But you got to find a way to put up 6 and 7 points. You can't be settling for field goals, especially when you're playing a team like Notre Dame, who just couldn't be stopped tonight. But going back to your question, I think it helped them just because it stopped Purdue's momentum. And then, they get the kickoff return for a touchdown. Purdue comes back and scores. And then that second half, there's no halftime. So Notre Dame got the ball right back, and it was off to the races from there. But just in terms of stopping the momentum that Purdue was sort of building, I think it helped Notre Dame.
I think the key question, Dub, in a lot of fans' minds each week is just, do you feel like the program is shaking off last year and it's moving forward, even if it's moving forward inch by inch? And I think in a lot of areas, we talked about the defense had a tough night, but in a lot of areas you do see that. And then you watch what's happening in Illinois right now. They're down at the half in Bloomington, 35-10. And knowing Purdue fans, it's pretty easy to get your emotions in the right frame of mind with a bye week coming up to say, you know what, I think I might want to buy a ticket and be there in Ross-Ade Stadium because I like Purdue's chances to maybe pull an upset on Illinois.
Yeah, and first and foremost, I think Illinois was a game I had circled coming into the year as a potential upset, just because Purdue's had success against them in the past. Obviously, this is a different program under Barrett, but Illinois might be reeling after this one. I'm looking real quick to see who they play next.
Let's not forget what's up for them next week.
And who is up for them?
USC comes into Champaign.
Yeah,
they got USC, and then they got Ohio State after Purdue. So they're in the midst of their toughest stretch of the season. You don't know how a big time loss is going to impact a team. Until it happens. So I think we're going to learn a lot by how they respond next week against USC. Maybe they come out and win big. But I haven't gotten a chance to really watch this first half. It looks like Mendoza is going crazy. So I think that passing defense and might have some holes in it that Ryan Brown and Purdue's aerial attack can exploit. But I also think Illinois is a really good team. I think if this game was in Champaign, I would have had Illinois winning. I kind of erred on the side of IU just because it was in Bloomington. It was a big time game down there. But we're gonna have to wait and see. But Purdue's had success against Illinois in the past, so we'll have to see how that one plays out.
The thing about Illinois, guys, is that Bielema, much like Barry Odom, he's been around the block a few times.
Oh, yeah.
And he's just one of those, you look at him and you go, man, that guy's a football coach. And Illinois last year showed you a lot with really a very solid campaign for them. But, Bielema had his time at Wisconsin, then he has the tough times in the SEC at Arkansas, and he takes this Illinois job when that job was really down. And, he's made that program back into something again. So, he's a guy that, the game's big enough next week in Champaign that Colin Cowherd's going to be there. He's kind of a USC homer, but if you get Colin Cowherd into Champaign, I think he's recognizing the Illini have put themselves back in the national conversation.
Yeah, they did. Yeah. Go ahead, Dub.
Yeah, they absolutely have. Coming into the year, I thought that they would be a college football playoff team. Luke Altmaier, I think, has been phenomenal. I know they lost a couple of wide receivers last year, but Hank Beatty has really stepped up. Um, and their rushing attack is really good. And with the exception of today, I think their defense is kind of gone back to what it was last year, and prior to Ryan Walters' departure, as far as one of the best in the conference. So they got the winning formula. I think sometimes you have a bad game, and going down to Bloomington against Kirk Cignetti and those guys isn't easy, as we saw with Purdue last year. So I'll be interested to see how they respond. I think that USC game is a must-win for them, just because you got Ohio State looming a couple weeks after, and the Buckeyes are undoubtedly going to be favored in that game. So it'll be interesting to see how they bounce back should they end up losing tonight. But it's also an opportunity for Purdue to get one next week or in a couple weeks, because I think they're going to go down to the wire with one of these top teams.
Right.
I think they've played I think they played pretty well last week against USC and would have had a shot had it not been for those turnovers. I think they hung around with Notre Dame as best they could tonight. So I think, you catch one of these, whether it's Illinois, Indiana, Michigan, Ohio State, if you catch one of those teams sleeping, you can make it a game deep into the fourth quarter and make it interesting.
Tom Deanhart is circling, so to speak, but he said he's going to be joining us in 2 to 3 minutes. He's had a long day just because and be back, so we'll be relatively brief with him. But I am interested to see what he heard in the post-game press conference, et cetera, because that's going to be telling. All right, W also made a recruiting trip yesterday, Trotwood, Ohio, and tell us a little bit about that. A couple Purdue commits and a Indiana versus Ohio football game as well, as Tom just joins us. But go ahead, Dub. We'll let you finish.
It was pretty cool to see Center Grove head over to Ohio, and they got a big time win. There's Tom.
There's Tom. We just brought him in. There you go.
I'll keep it short and sweet. But I went and saw Jamarcus Weiss, Trotwood Madison, and then Kobe Cherry of Center Grove, who I've seen twice now. Jamarcus Weiss is as advertised. He's not super big. He's only 6'1". I think he's listed at 300 pounds. I'm not a great weight guesser. I wouldn't be good at those carnival games, but he didn't look 300 pounds to me. He looked more like 260. But he's super explosive, great with his hands, plays with an extremely high motor, which is pretty impressive for a big guy because he plays both ways. He also plays right tackle. So he was kind of moved around on the inside. He went up against CJ Cyphers, an Indiana commit for Center Grove. Really good player. And I can't remember his final stats off the top of my head. I think it was eight tackles, a couple tackles for loss, forced fumble, a few quarterback pressures. So he played extremely well. And then Kobe Cherry of Center Grove, who's another Purdue commit, he played extremely well. And he's really getting his legs under him. He missed all last year with the knee injury. So he looked more comfortable out there to me. But two really good guys and two guys that I think that could emerge as starters for Purdue in the next few years, should they just continue with their developments.
All right, well said, Dub. Hey, thanks for your time and always interesting analysis. We'll look forward to your recruiting work, and your Monday recruiting wrap up's always a big plus on the site too, to see how all Purdue's prospects went. All right, Tom Deanhart, you have had another. You don't get paid by the hour, and that's your problem.
About that.
Oh my mercy! But and I'll let Nate ask in a second here. But just your any comments quickly on the, and we're not going to keep you too long because you got a long day ahead of you, but long drive ahead of you. But anything on the injuries? I'm sure not a lot probably from Barry Odom just yet, but George Burren looking like was in street clothes after the delay.
Yeah. His left arm's in a sling, so shoulder injury, some to his left arm. He talked about that in the post game. Chris Pate, our sleuth on the sideline, sent me a picture of George Burren, and I'm looking at it right now. His arm's in a sling there.
Yeah.
Oh,
So there's that. Not sure how long he's going to be out for. TJ Lindsey is out for the season with an ACL injury. Of course, number 13, probably their best defensive tackle, honestly. A real active kid, an Auburn transfer. That's a big blow. That's a really big blow not to have him for the rest of the year. And that's all he really had on the injuries at this point. But, yeah, guys, what a night, right? What a night. At one point, I thought Indy was going to score more points than they scored last year against Purdue.
Yeah, I did too. I think they're going to get to 70.
They couldn't stop them. And, Barry Odom said it wasn't a matter of scheme or talent. They just have to get some things sorted out. He's really happy the bye week's coming up.
Yeah.
Get some extra practices in here as well. Bottom line is they've got work to do. But, again, you never want to jump to conclusions and say this is a bad team. I think Notre Dame's probably a pretty good team, at least offensively, right? And USC, I think, is going to prove to be a pretty good team as well. So my point is they played two pretty solid programs the last 2 weeks.
Tom, I'm going to read to you from your predictions where you wrote, and I quote, if Jeremiah Love and Jadarian Price are able to run wild, it will be a long afternoon in South Bend for the Boilers.
There you go.
Would you like to comment on that?
How good are those guys? Wow.
They're
Barry
good.
Odom,
Yeah.
You got to see him up close and said they were two of the better backs in America. I think we knew that coming in. They certainly showed it, man. That ability to stop and shift and just they run hard too. Man, they run hard. You better wrap them up. Love especially is a bigger back, 6 foot, like 214. So yeah, there you go, right, Nate? And football is a pretty simple sport. You win it up front on both sides of the line of scrimmage with your lines, and if you can run the football like that, you're probably going to win a lot of games. And Purdue could not run the football tonight. That was their crux, and could not get anything between the tackles. Right. At one point, their leading rusher was the punter with a 10-yard run.
He's your hero, man. I can't imagine now how much higher he is on your man crush. I don't think I
vote for the Ray guy. That's one of where I know I vote for is a Ray guy. But I digress here. I think Malachi Singleton ended up leading them in rushing. So there you go. So, yeah, it was just, what more can you say? There were some bright spots. It was kind of fun to see the trick play early with the pass from Maccabee to Brown, the fake punt we talked about as well. And, again, offensively, you can build on some of the things Ryan Brown did throwing the football. There were some bad drops, though, weren't there, guys?
Yeah.
The Rico Walker drop in the end zone right here I'm looking at was a painful one. And maybe E.J. Horton could have caught that one pass in the other end zone. I know Jesse Watson dropped a pass that would have been a first down. So, long story short, the receivers weren't his best friend, but they did make some good catches too, right? And defensively, though, guys, my goodness. I don't know what you do. But you got to figure out some way to at least slow the running game down. It has to start with being able to slow the running game down. That's got to be your focus moving forward. Getting that defensive line figured out. And finding some way where teams can't gash you like that running the football.
Yeah, TJ Lindsey's injuries are huge, and really Purdue's inability. Yeah, inability to get a pass rush, but it really wasn't even that. It was the inability to stop the run. You just can't. Yeah. You can't function in that environment, and if they don't get that fixed, it's going to be tough to beat anybody of any quality. It would seem, and what you think too, and what did the players or Coach Barry Odom have to say about just. Purdue did respond. I mean, I thought that was a good thing. I mean, even after the kick return for a touchdown, they come and score right before the end of the half. That was a good thing. Couldn't do anything in the third quarter. Of course, getting outscored 21-0 in the third. But this, there was some. They did get punched in the mouth early and did find a way to at least make the game. All right, competitive for a half, sort of. But that was kind of what we were looking at.
And instead to set up for field goals a few too many times
killer.
As well.
Yeah, no doubt.
When Notre Dame was scoring touchdowns, they were kicking field goals. I don't think Notre Dame punted it all tonight either. And, again, Alan, you talked about the ability to respond to adversity. I think we saw some more of that tonight, like you said. And they kept fighting. And it's hard to imagine a Barry Odom team not fighting. Or he's going to replace you if you're not fighting. So I think we saw a lot of that. And, as painful as it is, this is when you learn the most about yourself usually. In defeat, when you're going through hard times in life or hard times as a football team, it's a learning experience, and that's when you find out what you're all about and what you have to fix, what you have to get better at. And like I said, Barry Odom's got an off week coming up here, guys. And that sets up a huge October, a make or break October. I'm in the media, so I can use hyperbole. It's a make or break October, right?
At least for this season.
Illinois comes here to West Lafayette, then they go to Minnesota, then they go to Northwestern, then they play Rutgers for homecoming on the 25th. There it is right there, guys. Illinois, with last I looked, was getting drummed by Indiana. And we know, I think Minnesota, Northwestern, Rutgers are peer programs. My point is there's no need at this point to hang your chin and give up on things at this point, because I think there's plenty of opportunity in October for Purdue to get better against teams maybe that are at more of their level.
Yeah, I'm going to let Nate ask the question, but one quick question for you, Tom. I just wanted you to compare rain delays or weather delays this week and last. Was there any other anecdotal? Was there food in the Notre Dame press box during the delay?
Yeah, they started off with hot dogs and some type of chicken nuggets, but during the break they had it was almost like a Thanksgiving meal. They had turkey. Green bean casserole, mashed potatoes.
There you go.
You guys probably would have loved it. I just need to have the Detroit Lions game on. I'd have been right at home there on Thanksgiving. But yeah, it was a solid effort up here in South Bend. They always do a good job. The crowd was great, man. What a great scene walking over to the stadium from my parking spot. You guys have been up here before. You know what it's about, and
it is great.
And it'll be interesting to see what Notre Dame turns into this year as well. We talked about that all week, right? Their schedule moving forward, guys. They may not lose another game. It's really not that challenging. Arkansas, Boise State, Boston College, Stanford. The USC game will be the toughest. Navy. So again, they got to probably go 10-2. So we'll get to see how good ND is moving forward as well. But Purdue has to take care of Purdue, right? And the injury to George was tough. The injury to Lindsey's tough. I mean, you just hope George gets back sooner rather than later. But that's football, right? Everybody's got a sad song. They have a sad song they can sing for you. They don't want excuses. They just want results. And Barry Odom's like that. And that's what he's paid for. And I think he'll figure things out.
Tom, I just want to, in the final question, get a kind of a state of the union from you. If I put you in the time machine and we went back and saw Tom Deanhart midway through August, and we said, okay, Tom, it's going to be 2-2. They're going to beat the two they should beat, and then they're going to fight in the other two games, but it's going to kind of slip away from them in the second half. But then Illinois, as you mentioned, is looking suspect, and they'll have the bye week. If I gave you that scenario in the middle of August, what would you think?
I would have taken it, Nate. I would have taken it. Even though in the aftermath of this game, you kind of feel a little negative, I guess. But again, like I said, it's the aftermath of the game. There's still a lot of emotions, and you just absorb things too as a fan, as a coach, But I think in hindsight, if you'd have told me that back in August, it would have been believable. I think giving up 56 points would have been hard to swallow even back in August. They never were really in this game, I didn't think. Right from the jump, they go 3 and out. They have a terrible unsportsmanlike conduct penalty on the first drive. And Notre Dame gets the ball and scores on their very first play of the game.
Yeah, that was brutal.
That was just a brutal beginning and sort of a portent of things to come. So I think giving up the 56 tonight and just the total inability to get off the field was a little alarming and a little concerning, I think. And this defense hasn't been super great all year. So we saw a lot of things exposed tonight, and that secondary's got some things to clean up too, guys. They were shuffling in cornerbacks, Tony Grimes and Derry Hines. They brought in the kid from Mississippi State, Travion Wright, for a while. Just trying different people at the corner spot. There's just bad tackling, bad angles, and just blown coverages, and then the back end certainly didn't help matters.
All right, Tom, we know you've got a lot of writing yet to do. We'll let you go, and safe travels getting home. Thanks so much.
I appreciate it. I got some leprechaun munchies for you. I'll bring back, all right?
There you go.
Very nice. Very nice.
Look at that.
That's outstanding.
Sounding like a little bit of thunderstorms here in Lafayette, so travel safe home.
All right,
Hope
take
you'll
care,
be out of the way
fellas.
by the time you get here.
See you, Tom. And Alan, before I let you go, of course, the bye week for Purdue, as we talked about, and Illinois coming in. And I think you probably, much like Tom Allen, I think you and a lot of Purdue fans would probably have said before the year, if you're 2-2 at this moment, aside from the injuries you've got, I think a lot of Purdue fans might sign up for that looking ahead to Illinois.
Well, I think again, it's going to come down to how Purdue can Purdue incrementally improve, and with those couple of those really key injuries, that's going to be a key storyline. But Barry Odom is not going to stand for the defense being the way it was today against a good team. They'll work on getting better, and I think you got to still remain optimistic if you're Purdue. Purdue did have some moments of lightning bolt, good moments in this game. They caught your attention. They had some bad ones, but I think there's some things to build on, and that's what's going to make the rest of the season interesting as we roll forward.
No doubt. Well, Al, have a great week, and don't forget you can catch Alan and the Monday Night Memories that we've been doing with the Chariot Automotive Group in Twin City, and they're all on goldandblack.com on the YouTube channel, right, Alan? So if you've missed them, some of the past ones, they can go back and check those out.
Yes, we want to thank our friends at Chariot Auto Group, of course, Nate Barrett and company, always great sponsors of that. We will do that. We'll have our Tuesday Gold and Black Radio this week. We will have a simulcast next week. It obviously won't be after a football game. I'm going to guess we'll have a little bit of basketball with Brian Newbert. We'll have our Friday pregame show also. And Acre Pro Wednesday Night Live will be next week leading into Illinois, but plenty of programming, a lot of stuff, a lot of basketball to get caught up with as Purdue basketball gets going hot and heavy here. I think some people are interested in that too, so we'll look forward to that.
Might be a few.
Yeah.
Okay. Right, thanks a lot. We'll talk to you soon, Alan. And as we wrap it up tonight, don't forget, hit the like and subscribe button. And, of course, you can leave a positive review. Don't forget, enable alerts as we upload new content every day. And while you're at it, why not subscribe to goldandblack.com and join the biggest Purdue community on the internet? Use promo code PU1 at checkout when purchasing a monthly subscription and get 2 months for $1. For Alan Karpick, for Dub Jalison, for Tom Deanhart, for Brian Newbert, this is Nate Barrett again. Follow all the great goldandblack.com content throughout the week, and we'll talk to you in the Saturday Simulcast live post-game in a couple of weeks after the Boilermakers take on Illinois. Have a great night.
As you all know by now, Gold and Black Radio has also teamed up with BetMGM this season. We'll be using BetMGM lines to make all our picks, and we'll have special offers for our listeners each week. When you join BetMGM, you get access to a variety of parlay selection features like same-game parlays, live betting options, and more. If you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3, and you'll get up to a $1,500 first bet. Offer on your first wager with BetMGM. Here's how it works. Download the BetMGM app and sign up using bonus code ON3. Deposit at least $10 and place your first wager on any game. You will receive up to $1,500 in bonus bets if your bet loses. Just make sure you use bonus code ON3 when you sign up. Make this college football season one for the history books. Make it legendary. See BetMGM.com for terms. 21 and over only. U.S. promotional offers not available in New York, Nevada, Ontario, or Puerto Rico. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. First bet offer for new customers only, subject to eligibility requirements. Rewards are non-withdrawable bonus bets that can expire in 7 days. In partnership with Kansas Crossing Casino and Hotel. Don't forget, if you haven't signed up for BetMGM yet, use bonus code ON3 and get your $1,500 first bet offer today.